Hello friends, today is going to be the first video in a series of videos where I talk about Hotwire, primarily turbo drive, turbo frames, turbo streams, and stimulus, and how these technologies can be a compelling alternative to complex single-page application frameworks like React, Vue, Angular, and Svelte. In this first video, I'm going to give a basic introduction to turbo frames, so let's get started. I will be working in a project that I already created and set up to use Tailwind, and I'll be using a FlowByte tab component, which is a great test for turbo frames. So the first thing I'm going to do is generate a tabs test controller with an index route. Now I'm going to go to the FlowByte documentation page and I'm going to find the tabs component. Then I'm going to scroll all the way down to where I see interactive tabs, which means that it's going to be using the FlowByte JavaScript in order to control which tab is visible and to control the styling on the active tab. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back to my new index page and I'm going to paste it. For this demonstration, I'm going to work with 3 tabs rather than 4. So I'm going to remove the last tab and then I'm going to rename the first 3 tabs, starting with trains, then planes, and then automobiles. Now I'm going to run the scaffold generator for each of our 3 models so we can have our models, our controllers, and our views. And now I'm going to run our migrations. Back on our index page, I'm going to replace the default content for these tabs with turbo frames for each of our models. As you can see here, I'm using the turbo frame tag helper from Rails, and I'm naming these with the suffix _frame. The suffix isn't required, but I found it to be helpful when I'm reading through the code. I'm going to go over to the browser and make sure that we are rendering things correctly. And as we can see here, we have our 3 tabs. Right now there is no content on them. I'm going to look into the DOM and make sure that those turbo frame tags look okay. And it looks like they do. We have our turbo frame with the proper ID. To make this easy, I'm going to use a feature with turbo frames called eager loading. As you can see here in the documentation, it just requires that I put a source attribute on there with the URL that is required to load the content. So back in our index page, I'm going to go ahead and add that source attribute to our 3 frames. You can see here, I'm referencing the trains path, planes path, and automobiles path, which should be the index page for each of those models. Back in the browser, I'm going to refresh the page. As you can see, Turbo is actually working, but we're getting content missing, and that's because we need to go back and add turbo frame tags to each of our views. I'm going to start with trains, and I'm going to open up all of the relevant views that need to be updated, and that includes edit, index, new, and show. So basically, I need to go into each one of these files and surround the content with a turbo frame tag that matches the turbo frame tag that we added to the index page. Now I'm going to jump back into the browser and I'm going to refresh the page. And as you can see, we have our trains index page. We don't have any trains, so I'm going to try adding a new train. And we have our show page along with our success notification. And we'll try doing a quick edit. And it looks like that works as well. So now I just need to repeat this process for the other 2 models. Once again, back in the browser, with a refresh, you can see that we have our trains, we have our planes index page, our new plane, we have our automobiles, our new automobile. And so everything is functioning. We've now created an application with 3 tabs and 3 models. Using the network utilities in Chrome Developer Tools, I'm going to take a look at this and see exactly what's happening. So if I refresh the page, you can see we get this tabs test, which is a full page refresh. This is a document. If I click on it, then you're going to see the response contains everything and includes the HTML head with all of the includes, the images, the style sheets, and the scripts, and of course the entire page, the entire body. If I go over to the Ajax page and let's refresh this, then you're going to see that these three models all load up asynchronously and simultaneously. And if I look at them, you can see they don't have the head content, and the only content in the body is the content that needs to be rendered in the frame. And if I click here on the new train, you can see it goes back and once again using Ajax loads that. And once again, you can see we have our turbo frame ID here and only the content necessary, the form that you see here. Loading and swapping out small chunks of HTML gives us the same reactive behavior that you see with single page applications. Single page applications brought us quite a few advantages over traditional server-side rendered applications, a couple of which are, number one, it keeps the context. So if I highlight this text here and I click on new train, you can see that the text is still highlighted like it would be in a single page application. If this was a full page refresh, that wouldn't be the case. And also, our scroll position is also retained. So if I come up here like this, for example, and I scroll down to the bottom of the page and I click on show train, you can see that it didn't reset the scroll back to the top of the page, which again is part of that kind of reactive behavior that you get with single page applications. And perhaps one of the biggest benefits with single page applications and Hotwire applications is you don't need to reload the entire page, including the head, which is going to reload, in some cases, the style sheets and the JavaScript on every page request. Instead, once this is loaded in the browser one time, it does not need to be reloaded again. This prevents the lengthy network request and page rendering time that would occur with every page load on traditional server-side rendered applications. So that is it for today's video. What do you think? Is Hotwire a good alternative to React? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.